Hi, Jen, the functional diagnostic health practitioner and expert, and this week I want to share with you guys what my one big message is. I know that in all of the work that I do, the content that I put out there, the videos, and the topics that I cover in the weekly blog and the newsletters, they may not seem like they're related, but they all actually have something in common. You know, I've covered everything from the latest and greatest when it comes to hormone testing, to diet, to aspects about sleep and exercise, or toxins and supplementation. But what it really boils down to is that all of these things actually have something in common, and that is stress. All of these different topics that I talk about, they all come back to the same thing, and that they are contributing some type of stress on the body. And I want to give you ways that you can combat that stress, because actually that is the key to optimal health. Now, normally when we think about stress, we think of the mental emotional stress that's related to our work or our relationships or traumatic events. But the reality is that stress is anything that creates a burden on the body or places some type of burden on the body. Whether it's like inflammatory foods that you might be eating, or lack of sleep, or poor quality of sleep. It might be under exercising or over exercising when your body's already fatigued. It could be those toxins in your environment that are altering cells and changing hormones in the body. It could also be the perceived mental emotional stress that you do have from work or relationships, as well as lack of nutrients and all other types of things. So all of these different things create some type of stress on the body. Now, when I went through my functional diagnostic nutrition training program, we were taught to look at the body as a whole and to uncover what we call hidden stressors that were contributing to dysfunction in the body. And hidden stressors stands for, dysfunction that's in the hormone, immune, digestion, detoxification, energy production, and nervous systems. So when we uncover dysfunction that's happening in these different systems of the body, we also uncover hidden healing opportunities at the very same time. But when I'm looking at these dysfunctions, the question still comes back to what is causing the dysfunction in the first place, let's say in the hormone system or in the digestive system, and the answer is always stress. So my one huge big message that I want to come across to you guys in all of the work and content and blogging and videos that I put out there is that I want you to be able to identify the burden of stress on your body at any point in time and know what to do about it to alleviate it so that you can restore optimal health. Now, having a better understanding of what is contributing stress burden to your body and leading to dysfunction, and then taking action to minimize the stress, is the secret to optimal health that we've all been searching for. Our bodies are a miracle in themselves. If we think about it, they do so much work for us on a daily basis. Everything from breaking down and rebuilding cells to pumping oxygen and blood through our body, to breathing, and giving us the opportunity or the availability to be mobile. So what we don't realize is that all of these things that are going on in the body all of the time actually require a lot of energy and a lot of work already. And what we tend to do is we tend to place more of a workload on our body, or more of a stress on our body. We pile on additional tasks and responsibilities that forces our body to work harder. Our body will essentially do anything that we ask it to, but that doesn't mean that we should. It's rare that your body will ever tell you no. Our body will climb to, the peak of a mountain for us, or it will work through the night to meet a deadline, and it will eat almost anything that we feed it. But that doesn't mean that we should do those things or that we should give it those types of foods, especially when it's already burdened with some of those hidden stressors that we can't see or that we aren't aware of. So just know that, like I said earlier, to clearly define, like stress is anything that creates any type of burden on the body. So stress can be, like I mentioned earlier, the inflammatory foods or pesticide-laden foods that you're maybe consuming right now. It could be eating foods that are not in alignment with your nutritional needs. So if you are struggling with balancing blood sugar or insulin resistance and you continue to consume large amount of carbohydrates, for example, or based on your metabolism, if you need a different ratio of protein, carbs, and fats, and you're not delivering those type of nutrients to your body, that can create an internal type of digestive stress. Staying up late at night or consistently getting inadequate sleep, like having disturbed sleep, can create a stress on the body because then it can't repair and restore itself in the evening times as you're sleeping. Exercising at really high intensity or for long durations when the body is overly fatigued already creates additional stress that it cannot recover from. Like I mentioned, the perceived mental, emotional stress that we have in our work and our relationships and traumatic events, that's natural, that we most commonly know about, but that creates a burden of stress on our body to recover from. Lack of nutrients for the body to function at its potential. So if you're not absorbing nutrients well, you're not getting all the vitamins and the minerals and the things that your body needs to, be able to function, to pump blood and oxygen or to rebuild cells, that creates a type of internal stress on the body. And then toxins in our environment that we can't see, hear, or feel that maybe, like I mentioned earlier, are altering cells, that are slowing down the liver from doing its work or disrupting hormones. And that's just to name a few of the different types of stressors, but I want you to start to redefine the word stress and start to understand that there are a lot of different types of stress in our environment that are placing this burden on our body. Now, for the longest time, exercise was actually one of my biggest stressors. So being a naturally active individual and a personal trainer, I basically was not only passionate about exercise, but it was something that I was intrinsically driven to do, essentially. And I was constantly pushing my body to do more, to work harder, and go longer. So a huge turning point in reaching remission with my Hashimoto's, which is an autoimmune thyroid disorder, was actually dialing down my exercise and cutting it back a lot. So instead of doing weightlifting and resistance training and running, I cut back to focusing more on walking and yoga and things that were more restorative for my body. And when I did that, my healing process sped up so much quicker. And I was able to reach remission within a matter of 6 months. Now, if I would have kept pushing my body in the way that I was currently exercising, it would have continued to hold back my healing process, and I wouldn't have been able to reach remission in the quick manner that I did in a matter of 6 months. Now I can look back at many points in my life and see where exercise was actually an obstacle to my body recovering, or was a contributing factor to some of the health issues that I've had to deal with along the way. Something that comes up most vividly for me as a memory was when I ran my first marathon. And I remember reaching mile 22 and my body literally wanted to stop. Like, it was, my legs were like bricks of concrete that I was trying to move, but I kept pushing and pushing and pushing because in my mind I had to finish the race. And I can look back on that now and I can see that my body was fatigued and I pushed it harder and farther, and I created unnecessary stress by doing that. And not only that, I pushed it over the limit to the point that probably contributed to additional dysfunction and something that I likely never fully recovered from. Now, I ran this marathon many years before I was diagnosed with Hashimoto's, but as a result of doing these types of things to my body, it was never able to fully recover. And over time, all of this burden of stress eventually led to a breakdown that triggered Hashimoto's for me. Now, I can look at many other instances like this where I stayed up late at night and then I still went out and pushed in a hard workout early in the morning, or I ate crappy and went to work out when working out was probably the last thing that my body really needed to do when I was making these other choices. So now I know how to make those changes and how to identify when my body is under stress, and that's the message that I want you guys to receive also. If I go to bed late, or if I have a crappy night of sleep, if I tend to fall off my diet for a while, then if I'm traveling or doing other things that are causing stress on my body, then I try to strike a balance. And that means like doing things such as not doing my normal intense workout the next morning. Instead, I will do something like walking or yoga, or it means going to bed extra early, the next couple of nights after that, or maybe even taking a whole weekend off just to rest and repair my body in general and to eat super clean. So when we strike this balance, we're able to offset the burden of stress, essentially. So using functional lab testing, I'm able to see where these dysfunctions lie within either my body or somebody else's body, and we can work towards restoring all of that, dysfunction. But the question is, how do we restore the dysfunction when we see that it's happening in the hormone, immune, digestion, detoxification, energy production, and nervous systems? And restoring function or restoring health requires a multifaceted approach. Just changing your diet is not the solution. It's not the catch-all solution that most of us hope that it would be. To really promote health in the body, we have to come at it in a couple of different angles. And this includes not only diet, but also looking at rest or sleep, making sure that you're doing the right type of exercise for your body. It's not too much or not too little. Obviously, identifying mental emotional stress that's going on and ways that you can reduce that or offset it. And then supplementing where needed to support the body while you make some of the lifestyle changes that are going to reduce the overall stress that's happening in general. So I found in my many years of doing this work and with working with many of clients that aside from these scientific approaches, there's also a huge mindset and spirituality component that are just as important. You'll only be able to reach like a limited level of optimal health if you don't also work on the mindset and spirituality aspects. And that's because if you don't change your mindset or the way that you do things or the habits that you have, and you're still trying to live healthy, eventually all that negativity is going to swing right back at you, and you're going to fall into those old habits of running your body into the ground and asking it to do more and not being able to identify when you need to rest. So we have to work on also rebuilding the relationship with our body, which means changing our mindset and how we see things. So for me, going back to the exercise example, I had to change the way that I approached exercise and being able to assess my body every single day to see what kind of stress it was under, and then to make a conscious choice to do exercise that was right for me. Now, those old beliefs of just pushing through it still pop up, but now that I've done some of the mindset work and have a spiritual practice, I'm able to slow down and recognize that and let it and take care of it before it takes care of me and winds me down, essentially. So I'll leave you with this. I want you to think right now as you're listening to this video or reading this blog is, what kind of stress is your body currently under? Are there toxins in your environment right now where you're sitting that you can't see, hear, or feel? What was the last thing you ate, and was it nutritious for you? Did you get a crappy night of sleep? Did you force yourself to work out today or push it too hard potentially when you were already tired? And are you stressed in your work or your relationships at all? Or what else might be contributing to a burden of stress in general on your body? Now, constantly be thinking about these things. So remember to check in with yourself regularly and weigh the burden of stress at any point in time, and make sure to, once you recognize what that is, minimize or eliminate those stressors before they minimize or eliminate you and your health altogether. So I hope you guys found this helpful, and if you're interested in learning more about how to identify the stresses that are going on in your life and in your body, and also how to take action and responsibility to control them or alleviate them, that I want to invite you to an upcoming webinar that I'll be hosting on September 19th at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern Time with my colleague Molly Hamill. We're going to be talking about activating and upgrading your autoimmune healing. Now, this webinar is perfect for you if you have an autoimmune disorder or even if you don't, because we're going to be sharing our best practices that we've used with ourselves and also with our clients to alleviate stress in all aspects of our life and our body to promote healing. So if you guys are interested in that webinar, you can click on the links below or back in the email where you found this video, and I hope to see you guys there. Have a great week, and I'll see you next Thursday.